with the stories that are making the headlines. Gyles Brandreth and Camilla Tominey are here. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. We're in a state of high excitement. I'm using the royal we because Susan Hampshire is going to be in the building. And
in the original Forsyte saga?
I recently re-watched it. It's from 1967. It's in black and white. Susan Hampshire is unbelievably brilliant and beautiful in it. And as you will see, if you haven't seen her recently, she is still unbelievably beautiful and brilliant. And this is, I think, a prequel of the original Forsyte saga.
Right.
Exactly.
And they've got her in. But isn't it amazing to be starring in 1967 and 2025, still at the top of your game?
Story of your life, Gyles Brandreth.
But it is, I think it's a really great touch. I think it's fabulous that she's involved in this series as well, because it gives it, sort of anchors it in the original, even though it's a prequel. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to catching up with them later. Let's talk about the headlines, though, and they don't make great reading as ever for the royal family and Prince Andrew, who's dominating them yet again. The Metropolitan Police now saying they are actively looking into claims that he asked one of his personal protection officers to dig up all sorts of dirt on Virginia Giuffre. It's not great.
From one saga to another. I mean, this has been going on now for 15 years, which in a way is unbelievable. Perhaps this should have all been nipped in the bud earlier. Really, he should have taken more of a step back when this was becoming so reputationally damaging that the decision was made to give Virginia Giuffre, who died by suicide in April. We should point out these memoirs are now being published posthumously. They're coming out tomorrow. And we've already got some sense of what she is alleging once again against Andrew, which he still continues to vehemently deny. But the bottom line is that he hasn't been found guilty in any court, but he has been found guilty in the court of public opinion when it comes to the lack of judgment he's shown in maintaining that friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. He was caught out in a lie, a little bit like his ex-wife Sarah Fergsuon. Both had claimed that they cut off all contact after Epstein left prison, where he served a sentence for procuring a minor for prostitution. It now turns out that, contrary to what he claimed to Emily Maitlis in the famous 2019 Newsnight interview, and what she subsequently claimed, that both of them continued to maintain a relationship and supported him and used extremely sort of charitable and friendly words towards him, which again has begged the question, what were they getting out of it? Suggestions in the Mail on Sunday yesterday that Fergie was essentially being bankrolled by this guy who was a billionaire. This new revelation about the police is interesting in the sense that he has a taxpayer-funded security team. There was a huge amount of consternation about that at the time and whether he should have bodyguards that the public pay for. And then the suggestion that he has passed on some of Virginia Giuffre's details for a person that's paid for by the public to then investigate almost on the side.
Yeah, his social security.
Exactly. Now, the Met Police is still to sort of respond to this beyond saying we're carrying out an investigation, but it's clearly not appropriate for a man in Prince Andrew's position to abuse that privilege by asking a copper who should just be there to look after his own personal safety to go beyond his remit and try and dig dirt on someone who's accused him of very serious offences.
It's so grim and it's depressing for the rest of the royal family, particularly for the King and the Queen, who are due this week to make a state visit to the Vatican City, where they'll be meeting the new Pope. One of the things that the King has always been interested in is faith, the importance of faith, and all faiths. He famously said, I don't want to just be a defender of the faith, as in the Anglican Communion, I want to be the defender of all faiths. So meeting with the head of the Catholic Church, he is the head of the Anglican Communion, is a very important day.
And they're going to pray together.
And they're going to pray together. And this really means something to the King. He cares about this. You know, he prays personally. The idea, it's a very special moment, and he wants to bring people together. He's all about bringing people of all faiths together. So to have these distracting headlines when he's trying to do something important for human relations, international relations, faith relations, is depressing for him. Now, the problem is, it won't go away.
Nope.
And I think taking away titles, moving people from one address to another, is in a sense irrelevant. Andrew is the son of the late Queen, our longest reigning monarch. He will always be that. You cannot take that away from him. He may be called Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in future, I don't know, but he will still be somebody people know about. And they will go on following this story until they've got every bit of juice out of it. So the palace really can't do anything anymore, I don't think.
But, well, in theory, they could set about removing the prince from this. I know that that's a legal proceedings involved with that, and it's very, very complicated.
Well,
Take it that, like, he stepped away from his titles on Friday, didn't he?
Yes,
So he's no longer the Duke of York.
He's relinquished.
Well, he is still the Duke of York, forgive me. He is still the Duke of York.
The dukedom is in abeyance. It hasn't been taken away from him. And the reason that the king has done it like that is because if he actually stripped him of his dukedom, which is something that is really reserved for people who have committed treason historically and other such offences, let's not forget that the Duke and Duchess of Windsor remained that when they were exiled to the Bahamas after the abdication. It's to protect the York's daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, because the king is said to be very fond of his nieces, doesn't think that they should have to take the rap for what their parents have done. And therefore, if you put the title in abeyance, it protects their own HRH status.
I see.
So he could have been stripped of the dukedom, but then that would require an act of parliament. You're then dragging politicians into the fray. This is an attempt to dampen things down, although I agree with Gyles that it's a story that will run and run because obviously we've got the publication of this book. We've now got a police investigation. It's a really tricky one because really the only thing that this couple can now do is sort of go behind closed doors, not really be seen at any royal public event again, either state or family. I mean, the trouble is as well is when they do pop up at stuff, and we witnessed this with the Duchess of Kent's funeral, they behave inappropriately. They want to be front and centre. The Prince of Wales, Prince William, is there having to actively avoid getting into conversation with his uncle as a coffin is, you know, coming out of a hearse and all the rest of it. It really there needs to be, it's so hard because it's this management of one's service to the firm and one's family life. And how do you cope with that if you're actually being excluded from family occasions now?
I think it's over for them, the relationship with the royal family. I don't think there'll be any public manifestations of that at all.
Do you think with King Charles as well?
Well, of course, it's still his brother. We don't know.
No.
But there's going to be no public association with them from now on in. So I think the palace, the king, will do everything they can to show, actually, we mean our business, we mean it seriously. We hate this distraction. Now, what they do, you know, Andrew and Fergie, is up to them. There have actually been examples in the past of people who have been involved in terrible scandals. I think of a man called John Profumo. People of my generation will remember this. Had to resign from the government, a big scandal, and actually rebuilt his life over many years doing charitable work behind the headlights, and actually lived a good and eventually...
Do you think Prince Andrew can do that, though? Because I think that there's something about, as Camilla was saying, at that funeral, he could have been sort of discretion personified, but he absolutely wasn't, and he was keen to be seen front and centre. Could he go away and do something quietly?
The reason he is doing that is that, remember, even in the statement last Friday, there was no regret or empathy for the victims and survivors. It was entirely, I reiterate, in the last sentence, I reiterate that I am not guilty of any of the things I am being charged with.
Well, tomorrow, the book is going to be published, Camilla. We're going to be talking to Virginia Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law, to hear about their side of it. I mean, we've seen some of the excerpts come out over the weekend, some of the things that he is accused of, yet again, particularly what she went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, what she had to experience and suffer, what that life was like. And it's not going to quieten down, is it? There's more things that are going to be visible now for the wider public off the back of the publication of this book that's just going to pour more shame.
Well, let's be honest, Virginia Giuffre led a very, very difficult life. She's alleging in this book, sort of beyond the grave, that she was abused by her father. The whole suggestion about how she came to be in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, sort of procured by Ghislaine Maxwell, it's because she was a vulnerable young woman who actually needed protection but was exploited. You then throw this photograph into the fray, which... There was a period where Prince Andrew was denying that it existed and that it had been faked, you know, and then it begs the question, and this is the difficulty, I think, for the royal family right now, Gyles, and it's so unfair, is questions are now being asked, well, why on earth would you be minded to pay $12 million to a woman you had, quotes, never met? But the serious question for the monarchy now, and this will be affecting the King and indeed the Prince of Wales a lot. Did the late Queen help to fund this, which we think she did, and was it right that she did that? Then we're asking questions about a woman who led an exemplary life, who never put a foot wrong. The other thing about this as well is the sympathy towards the princesses. It was extraordinary, really, that in the Newsnight interview, he dragged Princess Beatrice into this with that alibi about, I can't have been with Virginia Giuffre because I was at a Pizza Express in Woking for Beatrice's 13th birthday. So it's like everybody in the family has been dragged through the mud by, let's be honest, the questionable behaviour of just two people, and everyone's being smeared. That's the trouble, isn't it?
Does it make you take a second look at that interview as well, knowing everything that you now know now?
Well, I mean, the interview was so ill-advised from the very beginning, but it was also a testament to the man's sort of arrogance. It's a dangerous combination of both arrogance and ignorance. You know, you're saying about John Profumo. John Profumo was a highly intelligent, sort of skilled politician who actually genuinely did work for charity and had a degree of introspection and self-reflection. With the greatest respect to Prince Andrew, I'm not sure he has those facilities.
Well, the interesting thing will be, back then, John Profumo could go and work with those charities. I wonder which charity would be happy to have Prince Andrew come and
it was a different world. I mean, now the paparazzi will follow him everywhere. That, I think, is one of the problems, too, with him continuing to live at Windsor. He is legitimately there. He's not... Where he lives doesn't belong to the king, belongs to the Crown estate. But the photographs of him, you know, riding a horse, recreation, will go on appearing. It will not go away.
Should they stay at Royal Lodge? It's 30-room mansion on the Windsor Great Park estate.
No, I'm not sure that they should. But I think they should make the right decisions.
Because their argument is he signed a 75-year lease back in the day, and his side of the bargain is that he maintains the renovations to that property. If he stops doing that, then the lease may cease to exist. Ultimately, I would imagine the king can have vicarious influence over whether or not he remains there. But the Prince William and Catherine factor is another one. I personally feel that the Prince of Wales has been quite instrumental in this move that led to the announcement on Friday. They're going to be living on that estate in a different property to the one now, and if they don't live there, they'll end up living at Windsor Castle. Do they want these two on their doorstep? I'm not sure.
The other thing as well we saw in the weekend, Prince William apparently has said he doesn't want Prince Andrew anywhere near his coronation. When that's
the very fact that that's been let out suggests that we are seeing a parting of the ways here. But the story won't go away.
No.
And I think there are more grim things to come.
Yes. Well, and then you mentioned them, the daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, and their position in all this, and how they are, with, you know, which is, you know, the reflected sort of.
Everybody I've met, I've met them, and everybody I meet who's met them say what delightful people they are.
Yeah.
And I know, for example, the late Duke of Edinburgh, who was quite sceptical about Fergie and a little bit sceptical about his own son, really loved the girls. So...
And also the Queen used to invite Fergie with the girls to Balmoral because she was admiring of her as a mother, if not necessarily as an individual who attracted negative headlines, although you will be able to vouch, Gyles, as the biographer of both, that Prince Philip, if Fergie was at Balmoral, Prince Philip made sure he was on the Isle of Wight for Cows Week. He famously described his daughter-in-law as odd and pointless, and he called it very early that
In fairness, he didn't say that she was pointless. He said he couldn't see any point in seeing her. But if the Queen was having Fergie to tea and he was in the room, as she came in one door, he would be leaving by the other.
But that does show a degree of prescience from the Duke of Edinburgh.
He was no fool. Let's put it that way.
Well, we will be conducting that interview on tomorrow's show, Virginia Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law, Amanda Roberts, and, you know, trying to understand the unimaginable suffering that Virginia Giuffre went through because of that life she led and
what they want them to do next, really. Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to get their
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and we'll see you in the morning.